5.5 years after Chula Vista mother Maya Millete vanished without a trace, her husband Larry found guilty of killing her. Today, a jury convicted him of first-degree murder after less than a day of deliberations. Larry showing little emotion as the verdict was read, Maya's family bursting into tears. We have team coverage, starting with ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo, who has covered this case from the beginning. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Kimberly, and it was very emotional and very tense inside of that courtroom. There was not one open seat, and as you mentioned, as the verdict was read, Maya's big sister, the woman who's led this push from the very beginning, bursting into tears, collapsing into her husband's arms as they found out that their brother-in-law was now guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Maya Millete. Now, Larry, on the other hand, I was sitting behind him, also sitting behind his parents. Larry showed no obvious emotion as the verdict was read, looking straight ahead, not looking at the jury as he found out his fate. Larry's parents also sitting very stoic. The only minimal reaction that we saw was from Larry's defense team, one of the attorneys bowing his head, appearing to accept the decision from the jury. But as they were all walking out, as the people were excused from inside of the courtroom, as the door was open, we heard loud cheering, people clapping. We heard a couple of them say amen. That was all coming from from Maya's family. And as Larry's family was leaving, he turned around, looked at his parents, didn't make any gestures, only raised his eyebrows at his parents a couple of times. They have been here at the trial most of the days. The defense team declined to speak. Larry's family also did not want to speak after the verdict, but we did hear from prosecutors, from the acting police chief, and from Maya's big sister. As I mentioned, this has been 5.5 years for her. She's the one that made the 911 call to report Maya missing. We met her just days after that phone call was made. She's been searching for her, asking for justice for her sister. She's happy about today, says they are closer to justice, but she says her work is not done.
Justice probably have been served today, but we still have my sister out there. We still have the second step to go through. We still have to bring my sister home, to bring her to her 3 children that's been waiting for her for 5 years. And we still ask the public for help.
And I've talked to Mary Chris over the years, and she has told me multiple times that no one wins in this situation. She's told me the 3 children don't have their mother, and now they don't have their father. This was a family that was very private, that, didn't know a lot of the stuff about this case until it came out here in trial. So we know a very difficult day for them. And this is a story that's really captivated the South Bay, where Maya lived. There were posters all over the neighborhood, and some of that support for Maya really showed here outside the courtroom. I want to bring in anchor Melissa Masiha. You were outside as the verdict was read, and there was tons of people here in support of Maya, also for Larry. But what was that reaction like, Mel?
And you were talking, first of all, that you were in the main courtroom. We want to just give you a picture about the interest in this case, because I was in a separate overflow room, which seats about 100 people. Nearly every seat was taken. Now, after the verdict was read, I was out here. A lot of news media and, of course, a lot of Maya supporters also filtered out of the courtroom. We heard some honking as people were leaving the courtroom, a lot of hugs here, some smiles. But as Laura mentioned, we still don't know where Maya is. I did try to talk to the defense attorneys as they left. They both left hand in hand. Like Laura mentioned, they also declined to talk outside. And Larry's parents, they were very polite, but they also left immediately, moving away from the news media. A couple people who did talk, the jurors. Again, this was a very quick deliberation. They started yesterday afternoon. They got the verdict today. I spoke to one juror about what sealed the deal for them.
On the 8th, Larry said he was at work. Then we found out he's not at work. And then he's gone for almost 12 hours. He turns off his phone. The last we see Millete is on the 7th. The evidence is overwhelming. It's not that we had to stretch to do this and that. We didn't. The mass, we just had to put the puzzle together.
And there was a little discussion between the jurors of first and second degree murder. Again, ultimately they decided that he was guilty of first degree murder. They said they didn't even really consider voluntary or involuntary manslaughter. A lot of people wondering, when is Larry going to be sentenced? We still don't have that date. That is because there is a separate gun charge that still has to be decided. So there is going to be a bench trial for that one. That is when the judge is in charge of it, not a jury. Still a lot more to come, but again, Kimberly, this is 5.5 years where we finally have a verdict in the murder case involving Larry Millete. Reporting live here in Chula Vista, I'm Melissa Messiha.
Yeah, and the power of circumstantial evidence, certainly evident in this case. Melissa Messiha, thank you for the live reporting from the courthouse. In a statement, District Attorney Summer Stephan said, finally, justice has been served for Maya and for everyone who has carried the weight of her absence for more than 5 years. Our hearts are with Maya's family, friends, and especially her 3 children who have endured unimaginable loss. Although today's verdict marks an important milestone, the search for Maya continues, and we will never stop hoping that Maya can be brought home so her loved ones can finally lay her to rest with the dignity she deserves. Joining us now to discuss the verdict is criminal defense attorney David Shapiro. Thank you, David, for joining us this evening. Looking at this case, there was no body, but there was lots of circumstantial evidence. Talk about how this jury honed in on this verdict so fast.
Exactly. I mean, for no body case, it was a pretty quick verdict, but it shows how much evidence there was. There may not have been direct evidence like a body. There may not have been eyewitnesses. There might not have been a weapon found or DNA or stuff along those lines. But there was such an overwhelming amount of circumstantial evidence. At the end of the day, the jury's like, hey, there's no other reasonable interpretation of this other than the fact that Larry did it. And not only did he take his wife's life, he did it with deliberation or premeditation, which is the prerequisite to return a verdict of first-degree murder, which is exactly what they did.
They had a few hours yesterday and a few today. Does it surprise you how fast this verdict came in?
Well, I mean, it surprises me from the fact that you have a trial that's going on 7 weeks and a verdict comes in a couple of hours, right? Cumulatively, probably about 5 hours, starting the day before and then the day of the verdict, you know, a little bit more than a half a day. So that is quick compared to how long the case actually was. But the reality is over the course of 7 weeks, the jury was presented with an overwhelming amount of circumstantial evidence, but still evidence pointing to Larry as the culprit here, right? What was quick is that they reached a first-degree murder verdict this quickly, not so much that they reached a verdict.
Yeah, first degree. What about sentencing with that?
Judges' hands are tied. First-degree murder in California without a weapon, without a gun, which they don't have, is 25 years to life.
Flat out, there is no choice to be made with that.
No, flat out, it will ultimately be up to a parole board down the road whether or not he will ever be released, assuming he's unsuccessful on his appeal, which will likely be coming sometime later this year.
And Larry chose not to talk in the trial. What about talking in sentencing? What do you expect may happen now as we get closer to that?
Well, that's going to be really interesting because he certainly has a right to be heard, right? He has a right to make a statement, as do the victim, or in this case, the victim's family, make a victim impact statement. Now, Larry has a tough spot, right? Because he may want to say something. He may not, but if he wants to say something and if he does want to come clean, if in fact he is willing to acknowledge what the jury has done, right, which is convicted him of murder, he has to be mindful of the fact that he's still going to have an appeal pending, hoping for potentially a new trial, and whatever he says may very well be used against him if he's fortunate enough to get that new trial. On the other side of it, he also needs to be thinking about, hey, you know, if my appeals are unsuccessful, what's going to happen when I'm up before the parole board? They're going to want to see at what point, if any, did I acknowledge my role in this, whatever that role was. I mean, a jury returned a verdict of first-degree murder, so they believe that it was him and only him, and he thought about it before taking her life.
And 20 years from now, the parole board would be reading what Larry may say right now before sentencing, no matter how he acts once he gets to prison.
Correct. I mean, the parole board's going to consider everything, and he's been in custody for, you know, the better part of almost 5 years or so. So after serving that 25, he's going to be before a parole board potentially, and they're going to look at everything. They're going to look at the case, they're going to look at the trial, they're going to look at statements he may have made leading up to the trial. What, if anything, he said at sentencing? What, if anything, he said in custody? How he behaved in custody? The big picture is going to be examined to determine when, if at all, he will ever be released on parole.
Oh, interesting. David Shapiro, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have more on the Larry Millete verdict throughout the night, and you can find more coverage on 10news.com or the 10 News mobile app.